Hello, prolific authors. How is your week going? So today on the podcast, I have an author marketing audit. So what that means is that I have an author on who is not sure where to go with her marketing, and I'm going to give her some tips and tricks and things that she can be doing now. We have a really valuable discussion about where things are going currently with paid ads. It's really important to understand that there are some big changes happening right now. It's not something we should be afraid of, but we do need to sort of roll with it and figure out how to use it to our advantage so that we're not accidentally throwing money away. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I really hope you enjoy listening to the audit. If you would like to do something similar, if you would like to get on a free strategy call with me so that I can give you the next handful of steps, the things that you need to be focusing on specific to where you are at in your author journey, you can do that anytime. Go to bit.ly/author strategy. I'll have that in the show notes so you can click on it. But once again, it's bit.ly/author strategy. And you and I can just get together on a really casual call and just chat about what you can be doing next to further your author career so that you have some clarity moving forward. All right, let's jump into the interview. Welcome to the Prolific Author Podcast. Let's face it, readers read fiction to feel emotion and be transported and transformed. In this ongoing digital revolution, where online marketing is always in flux, the only way to create a sustainable author business and live off your royalties is to write transformational stories, market at every stage of the author journey, and cultivate a loyal audience of readers. Fortunately, there's never been more opportunity to make a living as a fiction author. Hi, I'm Liesl Hill, USA Today bestselling author and story clarity coach. When I'm not dictating my own stories about dragons, serial killers, and dystopian worlds, I help other authors write their own transformational fiction, position them as bestsellers, and market them like pros. Join me on the podcast where I give writing tips, marketing how-tos, story advice, and interviews with other authors who are in the trenches just like you and making it work. We are prolific authors. Okay, Jernae, how are you?
I'm doing just great.
Good. So you are an author, and you've already published quite a few books. Tell me what your genre is and how many books you have out.
Right. So my first book series is dystopian. My second book series, I would kind of classify it as urban fantasy paranormal. Not quite so much on the fantasy side, but the paranormal. But everything that I do is new adult. I have a tendency to focus on characters that are usually in their early 20s to 30s. I kind of try to create a breadth of books that appeal to people that still like to read YA, but they're getting out of that YA teen angst stage, and they'd kind of like to get into adult, but stay with the fast-paced YA fashion of reading, while kind of taking on some slightly more adult characters and situations.
Okay. And how long are each of those series? How many books?
The first series is called The Inertia Trials, is 4 books. The second series is a trilogy, the Hexen's Cross series, and the final book in the series is coming out this August. So it'll be, like I said, a trilogy.
Okay. And what are you doing so far for marketing?
Most of what I do is, I will admit, this is, even though I do marketing for my day job, because I have a tendency to do the writing and authoring and publishing more on the side, more than anything else. And so I do marketing for my day job, but it's almost like I do it for my day job, and so I set it aside for my publishing, which is unfortunate. But I would probably say most of what my efforts that go into it are through social media, sometimes a little bit through paid ads, through, Amazon or Facebook or BookBub. I just tried BookBub, which was a total flop. So I remember you had actually mentioned a book on how to do paid ads through BookBub. And so that's definitely something I'm going to have to look into. But honestly, it really does come down to the fact that I'm almost burned out with doing marketing. And so it's almost like, and not only that, but marketing for my day job is very different in a way from marketing for an indie self-publishing realm. So it's, I put more of my effort into my day job to do that. And then what's left is to do the creative side of things.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's actually very common. In fact, the woman who sort of, what's the word, was like the manager of our box set that I did when we hit the USA Today list, she actually said the same thing. That's what she kind of does, is she does make some money at it. She helps authors manage things like that, and she writes, but her books aren't like hitting lists or ranking at all, because she's focusing on everyone else. So just know that that's totally common. That's what everybody does. And the marketing side is always, I think it's harder for creatives to learn, because we're naturally more the creative side of things. And yeah, it's probably going to be really different. The marketing for your job, I mean, what exactly are you marketing? Are they more like high ticket, more expensive things?
I mean, and they're not even objects. I mean, we're marketing a service. Okay. And for the most part, we kind of deal with marketing with B2B, which is business to business, as well as B2C, but business to customer.
Right.
So it's a totally different realm, totally different industries. And I mean, some of the principles are the same, but the avenues are just absolutely night and day difference.
Okay. So first of all, and I'll get into more actual advice here in a minute, but one more thing. What are you doing in terms of list building or lead magnets? Do you have anything like that set up?
No.
Okay.
I mean, whenever I have a new book coming out, I will do some kind of an incentive to entice people to sign up for my mailing list. But that's really the only time that I do something.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to recommend then is to set up some sort of lead magnet. You can use the first book in one of your series, but because your series are short, you may not want to do that. It's much easier when you have like 10 or 12 books to use the first book. But you can, if you want. You can even use it for a short time, because until you get something else written. But what I usually recommend is figure out which series you want to guide your readers through first. You've got 2 to choose from. And I would write some sort of prequel, or it doesn't have to be chronologically a prequel. It could be a spin-off. It could be another story within that world, something that will naturally lead them into that series. And you can do it as a short story, just like 5,000 to 10,000 words. Novellas work really well, up to 30,000 words. And I would highly recommend having at least one or more of the characters who are in your series in that novella, because if you do a good job, they'll read it and they'll want to buy the series, because they're already, kind of immersed in your world and in those characters. So even if you just wrote like a prequel that was super exciting, that was, shows your characters' personality and their flaws, and even maybe a little bit foreshadows what they'll be, kind of grappling with in the series, and then put that out as a lead magnet. Are you at all familiar with BookFunnel or Story Origin?
Yeah, actually, a little bit more with BookFunnel. I haven't heard of Story Origin. I think I have a BookFunnel account.
Okay, so you can put it on BookFunnel, and one of the easiest ways to build your list is to put your lead magnet on BookFunnel and then enter their promos, because you have readers who know about these promos, and you just have to share it with your list and share it on social media, that sort of thing. And really, it can build your list by several thousand people in only a few weeks. Really? The only downside is that you are going to get some freebie seekers, which is natural, but just make sure and clean your list every few months. So the people who aren't opening and responding, just, kick them off your list, and then you're not paying for unused email addresses. But even if it's just a small portion that will stay and be really engaged readers, over time, you're going to build a list of really, really engaged readers. And that way you'll have that list to sell to anytime you get a new book, people who will be waiting for it, and you can send them teases and the first few chapters, and you can actually really leverage your list that way. So that would be the first thing I would recommend to really kind of get a good base for sales for your books. The second thing, you said you'd done some paid ads. So the biggest thing about paid ads is that they're very complicated, and they're very different depending on what platform you use. So you said you'd use BookBub a little bit, which I will probably slip up and call that BookFunnel a few times. I do that all the time, and then I completely confuse everybody. But you've done BookBub. Have you done Facebook or Amazon?
Yeah, I had done Facebook before. And with Facebook, with the paid ads through Facebook, I always got a ton of impressions, and very little click through. Okay. And Amazon, I think I did one once, but it was years ago.
Okay.
And it was probably one of those experiences where I did it and it was just so complicated to figure out. I was like, that was just not worth it.
Yeah, in
So,
a way, I think Amazon are, I don't know that they're any harder than the other ones, but they're kind of the longest game because you end up having to test like hundreds of keywords. And Brian Cohen says you probably need to spend, or well, let's see, maybe not spend, you need to have like about 100 clicks on each keyword before you know whether it will be a good keyword for you. So that just takes time and money. And so it's hard to get immediate results from that. But I would recommend maybe starting those and just start testing keywords at a really low level. So make sure it stays within your budget. And even if you're only testing 20 keywords a month or every 2 months, at least slowly over time, time's going to pass anyway. You might as well start to build it. Facebook, I can give you a couple of pointers on Facebook, but the other thing about Facebook is there's massive, massive changes going on right now. So I'm telling people to be cautious with Facebook. Have you heard about the iOS updates that have been rolling out? No. Okay. So this just happened recently. Most people in the space have been hearing about it for a few months, but I think they just rolled it out a few weeks ago. Apple has decided, and it's so funny because they're pretending that they're doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. And I think we all know that's probably not the case, that it's going to help them as well. But they're saying that they are giving their customers, so anyone who has an Apple device, the ability to opt out of being tracked by Facebook. And, it's for privacy reasons. And, we all know that if you can opt out, most people will because they don't like to be tracked by big tech. The problem with that is that it makes them a lot harder to target on Facebook. So what that means is that our clicks are going to go up. It's going to become more expensive because we won't have as detailed or granular of targeting. That said, I think Facebook is looking into this. There's not a whole lot they can do to change what Apple is doing, but I was actually talking with Michael Brent Collins about this the other day, and I was thinking that maybe it was going to force people to be wide because, when we target people on Facebook, we're redirecting them to a different platform to buy our books like Amazon, and that's what's going to start to be really expensive. And so I was thinking maybe it's going to force us off of Amazon and onto other platforms that have more of their own internal ads and their own internal promos. And he agreed with that, but he actually said he thinks that Facebook will come up with something where they have their own internal marketplace for books so that we would actually upload our books to Facebook and sell directly from Facebook.
It's
we don't know.
Because I did see someone post the other day about how some of those changes are kind of leading toward that, where there will be more of a marketplace for authors to sell their works directly through Facebook.
Right.
So that's a really interesting concept. But, kind of like you said, that's one of the reasons why I looked into the BookBub paid ads, because again, there's people that are already directly signed up for BookBub and spending time, following their favorite author pages and things like that. And so I felt like this might be a little bit of an easier route to do a paid search without having to worry about the complexities of Facebook and Amazon. So yeah.
Now, I didn't ask you this before. Are you wide or are you in Kindle Unlimited?
I have, for the last couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, had everything on Kindle Unlimited. Okay. And over probably the last 6-7 months, I'm slowly taking them back wide again. As soon as my Kindle Unlimited, date range for my first series expires, actually at the end of this month, they'll end up going wide as well. But I do have my second series that I just barely got wide again. Okay.
So we will go over some tips I can give you for different things to try. And I honestly think, I don't know, there's a lot of people who make really good money in KU, and that's why they don't want to pull out of it. And I completely understand that. But I really think it's going to get harder and harder to do that. And it's just going to be smarter to have our books wide and to do a variety of promos. The only problem with that is that it definitely is more work for us because we have to do promos on different platforms and build our readership on each of those platforms. But if you have a plan in place to do that, it's not as hard as you might think. I actually just went wide with most of my books, like within the last year. And I've only got my romance on Kindle Unlimited still, but I'm probably going to pull those out in the next few months. And it's kind of been amazing to me how actually, I don't want to say easy, but I've actually made more money wide than I did in KU. And the main reason is because I wasn't promoting very much in KU. Clearly, if I had promoted, I would have made more. But my whole thing was always, I didn't want to go wide because everybody kept telling me how hard it is to make money wide and to build an audience wide. And so I just kept thinking to myself, I want a plan that I know will work for how to do that before I go wide. And really what it comes down to is just making sure that you're doing promos every month on one of the platforms. Just work it into your schedule so that you've always got something going. And once I started doing that, I started making money. So I'm actually making more wide than I did in KU because my books were not, I don't think they were either not highly found in KU or they just didn't appeal to the KU readership as much as other books would.
Yeah, I feel very similarly, and I'm hoping that I can figure out how to do that, which again is one of the reasons why we're talking.
Right.
But on top of that, I as an author, I kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't feel comfortable having the digital copies of my book only available on one platform.
Right.
I'm not saying that Amazon is ever going to go out of business. I mean, they are a monster
Right.
of a company, and so I don't see that happening. But heaven forbid giving control to one company to manage all of my digital copies of my books, and just in case something did happen,
Right.
like I kind of got to the point where I was like, I want to make sure that my readers have access to these stories outside of just one platform.
Right. Right. And I mean, a lot of people feel that way. There's a lot of people who don't like Amazon, so like on principle, don't want to do it. But there's the whole putting all your eggs in one basket, as you said. And if nothing else, I mean, we've seen author accounts get yanked on Amazon, and sometimes it's really not anything they did wrong. It was like a mistake and it'll get reinstated, but sometimes it takes 2 weeks and you're losing 2 weeks of income. And it's happened to people who have a BookBub out, and so they lose all of that income, and it's just, yeah, it's really frightening. I don't think it's very smart to do that either. Okay, so I will give you just a few kind of tips on each one and tell you what I think you could be working on now that will get you some sales now. If you decide to do Facebook ads, this is the thing that's really come up in the last few years that didn't used to be true. And that is that you have to run, there's more overhead than there used to be, because in order to get, quote unquote, affordable clicks, you need to be running engagement ads first. So when you set up an ad, you have all these different possible, what do they call them, objectives. So you've got engagement, you've got traffic, you've got conversion. There's a few others like video views and link clicks and things like that. Now, it used to be that most authors were taught just to use traffic, and traffic just basically throws all of the traffic they possibly can from the audience you're targeting at your ad, and a small percentage of them will click and buy. However, that's becoming harder. It's becoming not as effective as it used to be. An engagement audience, we all know that Facebook knows all of our behaviors. So, okay, it'd be easier if I give you an example. Let's say, because you write paranormal and dystopian, let's say you were targeting Veronica Roth and her audience, right? Within that audience, she might have like and I have no idea what her audience is, say it's like 10 million people. You're not going to get 10 million people sent to your ad, because within that audience, you have people who are more likely to click and comment and share, or let's see, not click, to comment, like, or share, but they're not likely to click and buy the book. And Facebook knows the difference. There's people who are more likely to click the link and go off Facebook to buy something, and Facebook knows that too. So depending on the objective, that's who you're targeting. But what they like you to do is to do an engagement ad, which you will not get very many buys from, because they're people who are not likely to buy, but are likely to, share or like or comment. Because what that does is it primes the algorithm so that it knows that your audience likes your ad and that you're targeting the right people. If you put an ad out to an audience and nobody clicks on it, then you probably are targeting the wrong audience, and Facebook doesn't want to show its audience things that it doesn't like. So what people are finding is that if you run an engagement ad and drop, I don't know, like they say you should run it until you hit a relevancy of 4, which might be $100. But even if you didn't spend that much, even if you only spent $20 or $40 on an engagement ad first, you're going to end up getting cheaper clicks when you switch over to traffic or conversion, because you've primed the algorithm and it's going to give you better results. I just lost my train of thought on that. Anyway, so a lot of people aren't doing that. And so they're ending up with really expensive clicks. Because of the whole iOS thing, really, you're going to have to test it and see if you can make it profitable for your books. which means you need to, you said before you were getting, and you had a good reach, but you weren't getting very many buys. So what you're going to need to do is go through, and even if you're getting, say, 20-cent clicks, which very few people get that these days, but even if you do that, most of the time it takes a good 10 to 12 clicks for someone to buy. So if you're spending $2 to get them to buy, and then you also kind of have to know what the read through of your series is, because you'll make your money on the back end if they buy all of the books, but not everybody will. So you kind of have to test it and go through and do the math and figure out how cheap a click you need to be profitable for your books. And, that just takes time, takes a little bit of effort. So if you want to do that on Facebook, go for it, test it, but just be cautious. Don't throw hundreds of dollars at it without really paying attention and making sure you know what's going on.
Which is not necessarily something I personally want to do. I, at least at this point in my career, I've continued to try to find the most cost-effective ways to do marketing. And so taking larger risks like that, like hundreds of dollars to do paid ads, is just not something that I've been willing to do.
Okay. I really think at this point that between the three, Amazon, Facebook, BookBub is probably your most likely opportunity that can be profitable for you. It's another thing you have to test. Now, you said that, and I wondered, you told me before, and I kind of thought about it and went, yeah, I bet that's not going to work out very well for her, because you were just randomly testing things and not, you didn't have much of a plan behind it. So I would recommend getting David Gaughran's book, which is called BookBub Ads Expert. The thing is that, let me ask you this, did you target big authors on BookBub? Do you remember who you targeted?
Yeah, there was a couple big authors and a couple smaller authors.
Okay. So here's the biggest difference. Again, every platform is very different. And on Facebook, you actually want to be targeting the big authors. So you want to target, like I said, Veronica Roth, Stephen King, J.K. Rowling, the big household names. It's actually the opposite on BookBub. And the reason is because their system is just set up completely differently. And there are so many people within those big audiences who will follow on BookBub and will never be actually interested in buying books. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's a little over the top because they're there because they want to buy books, but there are a lot of people who follow Stephen King because he's Stephen King and not because they're interested in horror as a genre. Do you know what I mean? Right. So David Gaughran, I think he recommends between there. Let's see, there's a page that's called, oh, let's see, I'm gonna have to look up what it is because I always forget, but I can find it. One sec. It's BookBub. Yeah, bookbub.com/discover authors. So I will send that to you so that you have it.
Okay, perfect.
And what this does is it shows you, I'll put it in the chat here, all of the authors who are on BookBub, and it shows how many followers they have. So David Gaughran recommends doing between what's the lower number? Maybe it's 5,000 or maybe it's 2,000, between authors between 2,000 and 20,000 followers. And I found that the smaller end of that, like around 5 to 10,000, actually works significantly better for me. So you can go through and find these authors. The other thing is that you're not going to get a huge return on any one author. Usually you'll get like, anyone, you might get like a 0.25 return on some of them, but anything that's close to a 1% return, like 0.8, 0.9, or a little over 1, that's kind of what you're looking for. And the best thing to do is just go through and test until you can find some that are right around 1% of a return, and then you can combine those together. So and it really does work. You would think that you would still only get 1% return, but I've done ads where I've gotten 4 or 5 that are right around 1. And when I put them together in an ad, I'm suddenly getting a 4% return. So it's just the way that their algorithm is, and it does work, but you have to test various authors. If you get the book, he will tell you exactly how to test them to make sure that they work. And, you can do it just 1 or 2 even, for each test within a budget. So again, it might go over time, if you have a really small budget, but that actually does work. And the other thing I was going to say is that BookBub will work a lot better if you're wide, because they send it out to wide platforms, not just Amazon. So I've noticed that when I do ads for my romance, which is still in KU, I don't get near as good as a return as I do when I do it for my wide books. So BookBub is really more of a wide platform. So keep that in mind. The other thing I will recommend if you are going wide is Kobo. Are you on Kobo as one of your wide platforms?
Yes.
Okay.
So like I said, I just barely released some of my books to go wide. So right now there's only the first one that has finally made it back up onto Kobo.
Okay. You might want to wait until you have like a full series on there, but Kobo has its own internal promotions and they're surprisingly easy to, you have to apply for them and you won't, like anything, you won't get all of them. If you apply for 10, you might get 2 of them, but they do move books. Like Kobo is one of my bigger platforms now because I just apply for these promos and it helps. It really does. You're making sales on Kobo. I would recommend reading or getting the book. I'll put these in the chat here. Wide for the Win by Mark Leslie Lefebvre. He has, there's actually a Facebook group called Wide for the Win too that I'm in, and they're really good about doing things for authors that are wide rather than in KU. So that book is really good, and that has really good strategies for all the different platforms. There we go. You there?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, it's still recording. Okay, I think my internet tanked for a minute. I'll just edit that out. I don't know if you heard the last thing that I said or what the last thing was. Wide for the Win. It's a book and it's also a Facebook group. And it's specifically for authors who are wide. So I would recommend reading that. In Wide for the Win, he actually goes through all of the different platforms and how you can grow your readership on them and do promotions on them. So that's really helpful too. And I've done some of that and it's worked. So
okay.
So that would be the main stuff I would recommend. Get your lead magnet out there, because the other thing is, with things getting more expensive in the pay-per-click ads, we're going to be relying on our lists a lot more in the future, and getting that that lead magnet in place, I think, is what's going to make a big difference in building your list. The other thing is, even if we can't sell our books on Facebook because it'll get too expensive, I still think we're going to be using it for list building, because that's going to be a lot more profitable in the long run if we can get one person that'll buy all of our books, instead of just selling a single unit.
Right.
So yeah, make sure you get that done, and then you can start just sort of testing really low level ads. You can, like I said, I would recommend starting on Amazon if you can, and just start testing at a really low level, different keywords and different products and things. And I mean, the thing is, they're constantly rolling new things out for us. They're constantly making it better and easier. It just takes time. I don't think us authors are their first priority by any stretch. But it will, I think, especially with all the changes, they always pivot and give us ways to, kind of work into it. So is there any other questions you have or anything else you want to know specifically?
I don't think so. I think this gives me a good start on things that I can try out, things that I need to look into to kind of supplement what I have tried before and improve what I've tried before, actually, I guess is what I should say. So I think it's going to, like you said, just be a matter of time and trial and error. And I think that's kind of one of the most frustrating things for us as authors is we're definitely more along the creative side. I mean, that's why we do what we do. And so taking the time to do stuff outside of that, and it's a little bit difficult, because marketing to a certain extent is a very analytical thing.
It is.
And I think that becomes very difficult for us.
Yep. Well, and what I would recommend, if you can, is figure out what your budget is per month. Like, if just throw a number out there, say you can spend $50 a month, and make sure that you're spending that every month to do testing and whatever place is going to work for you. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And I know it's hard for a lot of people. The thing is, I've spent about a year in the entrepreneurial space, and there's a lot of things that I don't even want to say they're not being taught to authors, but they're not being utilized by authors for sure. And right. I can tell you that the authors that are making the most money are doing the business side of it, either by themselves or because they're wealthy enough to have someone do it for them, or, whatever the case may be. But the reason so many authors struggle is because they're not, putting any effort into the, and the other thing that's important to note, I still see a lot of people, a lot of different things, ads, people who are trying to sell stuff saying you can grow an audience organically without spending hundreds of dollars on ads. It's not true. As of right now, as of probably some time ago, organic is dead. And it's not just because there's so much competition that it's hard to get eyes on your stuff. It's because the algorithm has been changed
Right.
to
I was going to
favor
say
pay for
it's
play.
almost impossible to do organic growth
Right.
because of these platforms that are trying to adjust their algorithms so that you have to pay. Like
Right.
it's just, that's the only way to do it.
Right. And there's really, I mean, there's people get super upset about that, but there's really no sense of being upset about it. That's always been the way that it is for marketing for any business. You know, you have to spend money to get your products in front of people. So that's just to roll with the punches and figure it out. One other question, do you have anything in place in terms of an email marketing sequence to like nurture your list?
No, and that's the other thing is it's not like I have a monthly or even a quarterly newsletter that goes out. I mean, literally, it's like, okay, I've got a book coming up, so let's let's start doing a couple emails here and there.
Okay.
Especially, you know, since they're, you know, newsletter people, I'll let them know ahead of time before things went on social media, and that's if I remember to do it on my newsletter before I put it out on social media. So it is a little bit of a hit and miss.
Okay. Well, what I can do is I can send you my, I actually just put something together that's email nurture sequences for authors, what works to nurture your email list. I would recommend sending out a newsletter regularly. You know, you can do it as often as you want. Some people do it weekly, some people do it monthly, some people do it quarterly. But if you put together the nurture sequence, it takes a little bit of time to set it up on the front end, but then you can literally write like 50 emails so that they're being sent out every week or however long, every 2 weeks, whatever you want to do, to your list without any extra effort from you. So that just kind of saves you from having to do that, but your email list is being nurtured by you in the background and you don't have to, you can kind of set it and forget it. So if you want, I can send you that, and I would recommend doing that. The thing is, a lot of authors are like scared crapless to email their list too much, okay? And we really need to get over that.
That is 100% me. In fact,
Okay.
when I go to events and things like that, and because that's probably actually where I build my list like the most as far as a surge is when I go to events and stuff, and I'll do like a giveaway or something like that to entice people to sign up for my email list. But I always like say it as a clarification, like, I promise I'm not going to email you too much. Like, and I really do hold up that end of the bargain. I mean, I really don't email them very much.
Well, when you do your nurture sequence, you can tell them how often they're going to get emails from you so that they know what to expect, so that you're not, you know, being too, but I mean, the other thing is, and again, this is something I learned from the entrepreneurial spectrum, which is different than, I don't know. It's, most entrepreneurs are selling way more high ticket things than we sell. You know what I mean? They have much bigger profit margins. So it is a little bit different, but the concepts, like you said, the concepts are the same. And the thing that people don't understand, and I remember being that way too at first, like I had 30 people on my list for like 3 years and they were all people I knew, you know? And so it really, first of all, it wasn't doing me much good, but you're always scared that if you email too much, they're going to jump off your list. And the thing is that they will, some of them will. You're always going to get unsubscribes. I have a pretty large list now, and every single email I send, I get a few unsubscribes. I mean, that's just, you got to be okay with that. And that's just par for the course. Right. But the other thing is that it's actually good. This is a little bit of a mindset shift. It's actually good when they unsubscribe, because if you have someone who is so annoyed that you're sending them whatever you're sending, 2 emails a month or even 1 a week, they are never going to be your ideal customer and buy your book because they're annoyed that they're even getting emails from you, you know? So get them off your list. You know what I mean? Like you want the people who are okay receiving those emails, who are excited to receive those emails, because they're the ones that are going to be excited about your book, buy your book, spread the word about your book. So it's about not having so many people on your list, but having the right people on your list. And I actually think emailing more often accomplishes that more quickly. I mean, there's people who actually do email every single day. I don't know if they're authors, but entrepreneurs who have like a daily email sequence, and they have very highly engaged lists and and I'm sure they have lots of unsubscribes for people that get sick of them or decide they don't want that, but they have people on their list who cannot wait to open their emails every single day, you know? So that's really more what you're going for. And I think that's a big part of the problem we see with authors, is that they just are scared. And I understand, because I've been there, but we've kind of got to get over that if we want to turn this into a business. That's all.
Yeah.
So, all right. So any last minute things that you want to talk about or that you need from me?
No, I don't think so. You've been awesome.
Tell everyone, I guess you kind of already have, but one more time, just tell everyone where they can connect with you and connect with your books.
So yeah, with me, I am on Facebook under J Kowallis. I'm on Instagram. My handle is author_J_Kowallis. And I'm also on Twitter at J_Kowallis. So I'm on all of those. I also have a profile on BookBub, which is something else that I would like to grow. So if you're on BookBub and you'd like to follow me, definitely check it out. So those are my social media platforms for the most part. As far as my books go, they're selling on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And like I said, and we kind of mentioned this earlier, my first series is starting to go wide again. So they'll be available on Kobo and Nook and those other digital platforms as well. The only one that they are not on, because again, it's a little bit more difficult to get on there unless you have a publisher to do it for you, but is Google Play Books. So yeah.
And actually they, and I'm not going to have it in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly how to do it. I've got my books on Google Play, and they've actually recently opened it up a lot. It used to be that you couldn't even, like you had to request to get your books on there because that you couldn't just start an account. And nobody was getting on for like 5 years. I mean, it was a long time. But now I know that I got on and put mine on there recently, and it wasn't that hard. You just had to go through and set up.
I guess I'll just need to check into that again because it's almost it's like I'm on every other platform, including Apple Books. But in the past, for some reason, Google Play has just been.
Right. It's been pretty recent. It's been pretty recent that they opened it up, and that's the other thing is Google Play is a good example of how they're changing things to get more authors onto their platform and more business. And Kobo's another good one. Kobo's,
so
they're
they
awesome
can compete
with
Amazon, which is the monster.
Right. So we are seeing changes in that. So yeah. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is the best way to get followers on BookBub is to run BookBub ads or do the BookBub promo, which is super expensive. But lots of people, when you do that, will end up following you on BookBub. So just for the record. Anyway.
Good to know.
All right. Well, I will send you just some links and things and my sequences that sell, and then I'll put all of your social links in the show notes. Okay,
perfect. Thanks, Lisa.
Right. Yeah, good luck with everything. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Me again. Before you go, if you found value in this episode, I would love it if you could leave me a review. Reviews are the best way to show your appreciation and help others find this podcast. Be sure to screenshot it, share it on your favorite social media network, and tag me at LK Hill Books. Remember, the world needs your stories. Only you can change someone's heart with your fire-breathing dragons, your mind-blowing mysteries, your epic romances, and your intense thrillers. So join the revolution and be a prolific author.